Steering.
What are you doing with the steering?
We're gonna rebuild it and upgrade it with the Brute Performance kit. It's got some brass bushings and stuff to get rid of the plastic ones because my rack is worn out and sloppy, and
You got a saggy rack?
I got a saggy rack. It's because I run big fat tires.
Oh.
The fat rims with the offset just take this stuff out really quick as soon as you go fast, and the whoops is putting so much load in here. It's trying to pretty much bend the steering rack bar, so it's wearing out the bushings. So we're gonna see if this kit actually does anything better than the factory. Maybe it'll just wear out in a couple rides.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So we'll throw some B-roll in of how we got this out right here. That should be okay. So Steve has to turn the steering wheel because when he does, this whole component here turns and it changes the direction of the bolt. So this is a bit of a struggle.
There.
You got her. And what's next?
I don't know. I was thinking that that should slide off the top, in theory, but the U-joint looks blown.
Oh. There you go. Let's see here.
So it's splined, so you gotta make sure you have the steering wheel centered and the distance on these the same when I put it back together. Otherwise everything's gonna be off. So you'd think they do a spline with a flat spot.
Oh.
So there's only one way to line it up. That's infinite. So you gotta make sure everything's
Oh, it just goes in circles.
anywhere you want. It's splined.
Yeah.
So you gotta make sure you do it right.
Yeah, make sure you do it right.
Time to wash it.
And
We'll show you how to rebuild it now.
yeah.
Wish us luck. Never done it before.
Yeah. This is first time, so watch us stumble through it.
Yeah.
I find a lot of our videos are you guys learning with us.
Yeah. I have no idea what I'm doing.
No.
Every day is a fun day.
Yeah. So how can you tell if a steering box has play in it?
When it's on the car, this shaft, you can pull it up and down. Like if you push and pull on the tire, I don't know if I have to hold it down, but you're not gonna see it on here.
Yeah.
Anyways, this moves up and down.
Okay,
It
it's not supposed to do that.
So when you sit in the vehicle and you turn the steering wheel, you hear it's like clunk, 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 and it's this going up, down. So there's tons of play in everything.
Oh, okay.
And my steering wheel was completely straight when I pulled this out, and this rack is not straight. And that's probably from Turkey Hill when I hit that tree and it ripped it out of my hands and the steering light came on. I think I skipped teeth in here.
Oh.
So I'm gonna have a lot of work on the alignment to do after this.
Well, gives you an opportunity to start fresh at least, right?
Yeah, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Rebuild the whole car today.
Yeah. We were doing this video, and we figured since we had to take this out, we may as well do this. And I think since we had to take the worn winch out, we're also going to do one of those videos, so.
We're just going to do all the videos. We're just going to do everything today. This looks like a cool tool, and I'm assuming that it goes on here.
So that comes with the kit?
Yeah, but how are you supposed to turn that?
I don't know.
Maybe they have a video we could watch.
Maybe they provide a video for this?
I don't see any way of putting a tool on that. Maybe just grab with a pipe wrench, like.
Maybe.
Interesting.
We'll get back to you. So we didn't really find any YouTube videos to help.
No, they all kind of suck.
Yeah, so this is the YouTube video.
This is the latest and greatest. So first thing, I'm gonna pull these clevises off the end. I don't run inner tie rods. I run inner rod ends, Heim joints, because I couldn't find tie rods that would last. Well, Brute Performance sells a set, but I'm pretty sure they were like $500 and a rod end is like $50, so I went.
Fair.
I went rod end. I think a lot of them make their stuff just to ride in the desert, and we don't have the desert here. We've got rough rocks.
And mud and swamps. And
yeah. So this was my decision to run Heim joints instead.
And how's that working for you so far?
Well, they're still wearing out.
I mean...
I think I just need to go back to a full-size car.
Yeah.
These golf carts just fall apart.
Well, your race car wasn't without issues.
Yeah. So here you can see, if you can zoom in, a bunch of play in the rack.
Oh yeah.
So we're gonna try and resolve that. And Brute Performance gives you this tool. I don't know what their plan was on how you were supposed to turn this tool, and they don't have any videos on it, so I'm just gonna put a big ass pipe wrench on it. Grr! Holy Jeebus!
That was
tight. Praise the Kawasaki lords, it came apart with my pipe wrench. This is certified tools right here, guys.
Look at that.
Look at this. Snap-on truck would be proud with a monkey wrench on a vehicle part. 2 trades in 1 today. Oh, that's why it was so hard. It's got blue Loctite on it. They
that'll
like
do it.
their Loctite, these guys.
Well, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Kawasaki's.
Yeah.
Well, we'll keep this tool in the box.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll weld a nut on it so I don't have to be so redneck.
I mean, you are a fabricator after
I mean,
all.
it's pretty easy to weld a nut on there.
Yeah.
So what's inside this hole? What's inside hole number 2? Oh, there's a seal. Okay. And a little bit of white lithium grease. Oh, and a bearing. And a snap ring.
Cool.
Seems pretty. There's no dirt or anything in there, so the seal must have been doing its job.
Yeah.
How does this come out? Oh, she's in there. Maybe I gotta take this out first. This time they gave you an actual tool that goes on a ratchet.
Wow.
That's nice of them. Don't have to get out the monkey wrench. Oh, that was like finger tight. 1/2-inch drive for a finger tight. The other one was really tight. That's kind of the opposite.
Yeah. Not how it should be.
I was expecting to really pull on
Well,
this
they
bar.
said in the video this is like you can tension this, right? So maybe there's
no
not a ton
way.
of tension in it.
There's no way. It bottoms out. It's talking shit.
Yeah.
How are you going to tension something that just bottoms out against this head? As soon as it's in, it can't go any further.
Yeah.
So there's no way to be able to adjust the tension on that unless you don't tighten it down all the way.
Yeah.
There's the little spring he was talking about. And it doesn't look collapsed to me. Like, it looks like it's still fully open.
Yeah.
It's full of mud. So
that's
there's
nice.
mud in one side of this rack.
Yeah.
So I wonder with what's going on, if that side's full of mud, I bet these boots that are on the outsides are really shitty. Mud's getting in here, and as you turn back and forth and back and forth, the mud is like sandpaper, liquid sandpaper, just chewing everything apart inside, and then it gets play. Mm-hmm. They should have better seals on the ends.
Yep.
I mean, I've never taken one of these apart, so we're just guessing at this point, but how does this come out?
Only one way to find out.
Need some sort of grabbing device. Let's get this out of here. Oh.
Wow.
Oh, look at all the mud in there. It's just packed with water and mud. I don't know, this doesn't look very worn to me though.
Let's see.
Like, it's pretty equal. You can tell how thick the sides are, and they all look pretty equal to me. And it fits really snug. In their video they said theirs fits better.
Yeah, we'll have to do a comparison here.
So
the new one's brass.
Yeah, I don't know all their different kits. Let's see if the height's different. Oh, the height is different.
Let's see. Oh yeah.
So if I flip those around, that brass one is like a 1/16 taller.
And way more narrow.
And it's not hollow, so you can't use this spring anymore.
Yeah.
So then there's no adjusting it. You just shove it in the hole and put this cap on, and I guess as the brass starts to wear, then you're done. But
yeah. But at first it might be a little stiff.
I don't know. I'm wondering that when you tighten this cap on, if that's going to put so much pressure on this shaft that it's going to be stiff to slide. Maybe I should polish the shaft in the lathe before we put it together and
not a bad idea.
Do some cool stuff to it. But
let's see the inside of it.
Look at all the mud in there.
Ew.
Oh yeah. Well, how do we get this out? Oh.
Oh.
Oh, that came out.
Yum. So then how it works is that gear, yeah. And that's how it steers.
Sits on an angle.
Yeah.
And as you turn, these just ride together. It's a Healy cut gear.
Cool.
and it just goes left and right. And then
look at all the nastiness in there.
yeah, that's pretty rough.
Yeah.
And then the power steering is further up in the dash, like inside the dash. It's electronic. It just amplifies your inputs to make this easier.
Okay.
So there's really nothing involved with this. So now I think I should really clean this out well.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Get the mud out of it. Check these bushings, because the new one comes with bushings too. So
Cool.
we got this steering rack, it's in the vise, all cleaned up. I took a 1000 grit sandpaper and I polished the shaft, cleaned all the old crap off of it. Tried to make this as smooth as possible for this new Brute Performance bushing to ride on, and ooh, she's slick. Didn't want any bad goop in there, so that's good to go. And one other thing I did that we didn't film was I already drilled the hole in this casing on this side, but now I need to tap it with the tap, because they want you to put a grease fitting in here so that you can pump grease in this to help it last a little bit longer. So I just got to get some fluid for the tap, and we can tap that hole. I really like using this stuff on my taps, Anchor Lube. Whenever you're gonna tap a hole, just put a bit of this goop on here. Makes taps last longer, it cuts better on the threads. So as I said, this is just for grease nipple. Just get it started, try and keep it square. It's probably far enough. Beautiful, now we'll blow it out with the air compressor. And then once we get this baby in here, we gotta take out those factory bushings. I need to go get a wrench for that, tighten that up. Oh, I got one here maybe, that'll fit.
I noticed here, if you can see, this camera will focus. There is a crack in the bushing right there. So it's a good thing you're doing this.
Yeah, she's seen some wear. Now I want to know, because I watched the Brutes video and he said it was most common on the driver's side for that to happen, but I don't remember which way this
That would be the
faces.
passenger side, I think. Oh.
I don't know. We got.
Yeah, because the steering shaft comes in up here. And
so it sits like this?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's the passenger?
No. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'd be in the car, the steering shaft's coming down.
Yep.
So my passenger side is cracked in half.
How does the driver's side look? A little worn, but
yeah,
I don't see any cracks.
It's interesting though, because this looks like a good bushing. Like it's a Teflon lined, and then it's a hard steel case. Like that's like a nice DU bushing, and now we're just going with brass. I don't know if brass is actually going to be better than what this is.
Yeah, well, only one way to find out.
We'll have to see. Yeah.
But you did hit that tree on Turkey Hill on the passenger side.
Yes, and it did cause the rack to skip teeth on the pinion, and then I had to, because I had a quick release steering wheel, I just pulled my steering wheel off and put it back on so that I was still going straight. But yeah, this, when I pulled it out, center wasn't equal on both sides.
It wasn't center.
It was all.
Yeah. So maybe that caused that, who knows? Oh yeah. There you go.
Yep. She's split in two.
Oh yeah, that's a good crack.
She's cracked. So that's the passenger side, and the new ones they send you are labeled passenger and driver, so we'll do the passenger side first so we don't get them wrong. But to install it, I'm going to go use a press. Okay, so we got to sit in the press here on a flat piece of steel, and then I'm going to take a solid piece of aluminum. I'm going to put it on top here, and we're going to pump away and push that in nicely. Looks like a bushing.
That does.
Now we got to do the other side. On this side, I could use the punch to get this bushing out, but for some reason I couldn't get it to work on the other side. So we got this other tool. If you guys are doing this at home, you're gonna probably want some sort of puller. This is a blind bearing puller. When you stick it inside here, it expands with little hooks all the way around, and then you just give it some taps. Maybe. heavy. I'm pulling the whole thing out of the vise here. This side's in there. Holy moly. Jesus. That's why I couldn't do it with a punch. Got it.
Got her?
So that's how it grabs. There's just little fingers.
Let it focus here. Okay. Cool.
And then this just kind of like expands back. I need a wrench though. She's in there.
Cool.
So you might need that tool. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe you already have it.
Or maybe you're stronger than Steve and you can just punch it out.
Maybe you could just show me how to do it. That'd be nice. All right, I just want to actually check these because they say they're a tighter fit. So let's see what. So this is 1.1 inch, 450 thou. Oh, way tighter. This is 1 inch.
Wow.
So it's 450 thou tighter.
Is that a good thing?
Yeah, well, you can see that.
Oh, yeah.
See that slot?
Yep.
Or if I turn it, see the gap around that?
Yeah,
That's a pretty big gap.
I'd say.
Now there is still movement, which that's probably needs to be so it slides.
Yep.
But that's a way tighter gap. Next up is this pinion bearing. Mine, you're not gonna be able to feel it, but maybe you can hear it. It's really rough. She's all sorts of jacked up inside. It's probably cracked. The race is probably cracked. So we got to press this off. They give you a sealed bearing to install. This is an open bearing. So this is pre-packed with grease, where this one gets greased when you pack the machine. But being sealed and then getting this outer seal on top of it, you're double sealed. And a bearing like this isn't spinning fast ever, so the grease that's in it will last forever, because the only thing this bearing sees is your hands turning the steering wheel, and this is only turning a little bit at whatever the steering wheel lock to lock is.
Yeah.
So this bearing barely moves. So upgrading to a bearing like this, what brand is it? It doesn't say. It could be China, which I wish it was an NTN, but that's okay. Being sealed with another seal on top, this is a good upgrade. So you got to pull this little snap ring off, and then we're going to go over to the press, pull this off and put the new one on. One thing to be very careful of when you're doing bearings is you never want to push on the outer race when you're installing the new bearing. You need a piece of tubing that's going to be tight and pushing on the inside race so you don't side load the ball bearings inside. You want to not load the bearings. Taking the old one off, who cares? Just we can probably smack it off actually in the vise in 2 seconds because it's going in the garbage.
Yeah.
But the new one, we're going to use a press. Okay, so we got a piece of tubing here in the press and just a bunch of scrap to bring it up because I'm too lazy to lift the bed up. So it's going to push on the inside race. We're just going to slowly press this bearing back on, try not to damage it. That's it. Okay, class, I've got my bitch mittens on because we're going to be putting a bunch of grease on everything now and I'm sick of wiping my hands off. We sell this on the website. This is our favorite grease. We're not a brand ambassador or anything. I just love AMSOIL synthetic polymer grease. This is 5% moly, and this shit is, like we showed you earlier, so sticky and water does not wash it away. So if you want some really badass grease for your ride, head on over to d3offroad.com. Pick yourself up some grease. So we're just gonna lube all this stuff up and we're gonna put her back together. There.
Wow.
Bearing still feels smooth after pushing it on, so the bearing's good. This can't go in yet. We gotta pull that out and lube that up, so this can just sit here. Just a nice film on everything. Actually, maybe put some inside here too. Like a so.
Very nice.
And now this piece should be able to go back in.
Give her a little test fit.
Little lefty, righty, lefty, righty. This is going to sit over top of the shaft, so just putting grease around the edge of this will help. This is like a dust seal to add a seal on top of the regular seal. This will just help any water from getting in and bypassing the first seal, and then even the seal on that pinion bearing. So I just like to do everything that I can to keep water and mud out of these types of parts so that you can ride more and do maintenance less.
Yeah, because water and mud are killers.
Yeah. So just be careful when you're putting this in, guys, that you don't tear the brand new seal. That's a new seal they give you on the splines. Just use caution when you're installing stuff like that. Go easy on it. Don't be rammy forcing things. Put a bit of blue goo on here. Be generous. You don't want your steering coming loose. Get my plumbing tool back out, because there's no nut on the end of this and I haven't welded anything yet. If I'm going to keep this tool, which I will for Mel's machine, I'm going to modify it, because this is just silly. Grr.
Got it.
Okay, that's tight. Wipe this down. I like things to be clean and tidy. And then you can see there's two little punch marks there. I'm going to repunch those because that is an indent to make the threads mushroom over so that this can never back out. I Loctite it and we're going to mushroom the threads. You have no worry about that thing backing out on you when you're ripping it. Over top. Ooh, tight fit. There, so now there's 3 seals in that pinion. Okay, so now this little brass bushing doohickey thing is going to go on this side, like so. And the one thing I made a mistake on earlier was I thought this was one piece and you couldn't set preload on it, but I was wrong. This little nut-shaped thing is actually a second piece and this entire plug is threaded. So I'm going to have to crack this loose in the vise, take this ring off, and just tighten down the center piece on there until we have the right amount of drag that feels smooth, and then lock down this outer ring on top of that. I didn't realize that. So it is kind of better now without the spring, now that I know you actually can set the preload.
Pretty cool.
And I did not see that in their video, so I'm glad I caught that.
Oh, it's pretty loose. Wow.
So they did Loctite it all, so we're going to clean that all up. We're going to put a bit of blue on this, just a bit, because the top collar is going to be the actual locking part. Get this baby in here. So I'm just going like, just lightly snug on that. I'm not reefing on that. And then I'm gonna just check how that feels with some pliers. And that is way too tight.
Back her off a bit.
Yeah, a little bit more. Yeah, I'm gonna say right there. So maybe the best thing is to be turning this left and right while you're tightening that up so that you can kind of feel it. You're not gonna tell in a video, but I can tell with my hands. And then put some more Loctite and do the outer collar ring. I guess we're gonna need some sort of wrench that'll fit that, and then we'll hold the center with the big Allen key and we'll snug that up with like a big adjustable or something. So that's awkward as hell to get into, so what I'm going to try and use here is a crow's foot. This looks like an 1.5 inch nut, so if I use a crow's foot, it'll just grab a little bit better.
That's some fancy footwork.
Just gonna reef this up nice and tight. That ain't going anywhere.
Perfect.
And then just make sure this still turns. Oh yeah, that's just perfect. Wonderful. Now, where's my pink goop so I know if that ever moves? There. Now I'll know if that moves when we're out ripping. Now we are putting these clevises on. I run clevises in here instead of an inner tie rod, which is like a ball and socket. These take Heim joint, 5/8 Heim joint. These are, I think they're Kryptonite makes those possibly, might be the brand. I just had no luck with the inner tie rods as I had mentioned earlier, so I went and stepped it up to this instead. So the only thing that you have to pay attention to when you do this is make sure that they're in the right orientation so the heim joint is vertical when you do this. Oh, the wrench won't fit because there's a lip on here. Well, hopefully this will stay. Oh yeah.
And you put some Loctite on there?
Oh, yeah, this has a red Loctite. Because I kept having issues with these coming loose. And let me tell you, trying to install these in the vehicle and use an Allen key in there and get it tight, because the Allen keys that come on a socket are too short to fit past the clevis, so you have to use a regular Allen key. And then I use a piece of steel bar, and it hits the control arms, it hits the shocks, everything's in the way, so I'm glad I can do this here on the bench and get them tight.
Way easier.
So yeah, I put red Loctite on these because I don't want them to come loose again. You know they come loose when you turn your steering wheel like an inch left and right and your tires aren't moving because these are just flopping on and off on the...
Tell me how you know.
Yeah, there.
Good and tight?
Perfect. I can go back in. So these are the 3 bolts that hold the rack in, and they had tons of Loctite on them before, so we are going to lube them up. And then the next thing you want to do is, well, we're on a hoist. If you're not on a hoist, doing this on the ground is probably easier. I climbed up and I made sure that the steering wheel was perfectly straight for these splines, and then we're gonna line it up on the rack here. So I'm gonna grab a tape measure. And then you're going to want to measure out. I like millimeters. It's 55 mil on this side, 55 mil on this side.
Wow.
So that tells me that the rack is centered. I use millimeters because it's more accurate than 1/16 of an inch. I can do both, but it depends on what I'm working on. So carefully slide it up on that input shaft without turning the steering wheel. Get these bolts lined in, and then just take a gander and make sure that your steering wheel is still straight. And the other thing, if you run these clevises on the end of the steering rack, make sure that they're in the vertical orientation. So these bolts are started. I'm just going to check the steering wheel.
You done?
That's it. The steering rack's installed now. The whole bike isn't back together because we're also doing a diff, but this video is for the steering rack. So the only thing left, if you're just doing the steering rack on yours, would be, I guess you'd have to pull the diff to do it anyway, so same process. Put the diff and everything back in, but then you gotta put this down on the ground on its weight. The alignment on an independent vehicle always has to be done on its weight. So get it down, get the tires on, or we do have jigs that have wheels that you can use for alignments. And then get your toe set at ride height and all that, tighten everything down, make sure the steering wheel's still straight, and you should be good to go. One thing we did forget 2 seconds ago to film was putting the bolt back in the steering shaft on the top here.
Oh,
so
yes.
Once you get this tightened on, don't forget that little tiny bolt that is hard to get at.
Yeah.
It's a pain to reach up in there, but it's important. You don't want to forget that. So put that little bolt in, and then put your diff in, put your winch if you've got a winch, set it down, put the suspension together, and do your alignment. Yeah. And we're gonna see how long this kit lasts. Like, I've seen mixed reviews. The other bushings had the nice Teflon. These are brass. They're thicker, they're wider. This thing gets a shit kicked out of it with the offset wide tires and 35s. There's a lot of load and a lot of weight on there. Yeah. So I'll let you know in a year maybe, or maybe it'll have play in it in the next 2 months. Yeah. We are prepping this thing for a really cool event this summer. I'm going through everything front to back on both our cars, so this was one of the things. I had a lot of play, had to fix it. So any questions about doing the steering rack upgrade? If I missed something or you want more details, leave a comment. I'm happy. I read all the comments. I'll leave you any information I can in the comments if I forgot to say something or show something when you're working on yours. So yeah, just take your time and clean it. Use a good moly grease. Loctite everything when you're putting it together. Pay attention to the left and right side. Polish the shaft so there's no burrs or anything on it. And it's pretty straightforward. You should have a long life with a tight rack. So
everyone likes a tight rack.
Everyone likes a tight rack. So.
On that note.
Thanks for watching, guys.